Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome
Hi.
to the Jump Cut.
I was looking at my notes and not at the queue.
It's all good. It's all good.
We took notes. We're adults this time.
Well, yeah, great. Everybody, I'm Nigel Fullerton. Here with me is...
Nigel Fullerton, how are you? I'm Steve. How are you doing tonight? And behind we have Chrissy on camera. Want to say hello, Chrissy?
Hi.
And we have Mark running the booth.
Hi.
He's very happy to be here, as you can tell.
I am.
Manning the company.
Hey, well, welcome everybody to the Jump Cut.
The Jump Cut.
Today we'll be talking about certain movies such as True Romance, Future Man, the TV show, and 7 Seconds.
And American Psycho.
And American Psycho, yes.
I was going to keep that a surprise, but I spoiled it in every single post I made about it.
God. It's all good.
There's
Don't
no
worry
God
about
in
it.
American Psycho. Have you seen it?
Well, let's start off with True Romance. It's a movie that was recommended to us by a good friend, Mark. Mark Mendoza, everybody.
Mark the Animal Mendoza wanted us to watch it. He gave it very high praises. In fact, if I recall correctly, the story that he told, he was watching with an ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend said, "Let's watch this movie," and he said, "No, it's a." Am I correct with this?
No, you're talking about True Romance.
Yes, we're talking about True
Yeah,
Romance.
we're talking about True Romance.
Oh, is that what you're doing
Yeah,
now?
yeah, True
I thought you
Romance.
said
Yeah.
7 seconds.
No.
us that
Oh,
Through.
True Romance, yes.
Yeah.
All right. So,
True
you
Romance.
can
True Romance was her suggestion.
yeah.
Yeah, and I looked at the cover and I go, no way. It's a Shirley movie. No way.
So let's give a summary of True Romance. Best way to describe it, would you know?
All right. So, True Romance at its core is a comic book salesman who falls in love with a call girl. And he tries to liberate the call girl from her life of prostitution. Ooh.
Yeah.
Tried to liberate her from her life of prostitution, and it led to a downward spiral into a way that only Tarantino movies can do. It was written by Tarantino.
It was written by
his
Tarantino.
first, or was it one of his first?
His first was Reservoir Dogs.
That's right.
This was after Reservoir Dogs, between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction.
And it has that kind of Pulp Fiction vibe to it.
It does.
It's very dialogue heavy.
It does. It's dialogue heavy and Elvis heavy as well.
Yes.
I feel like there's always a character that looks like Elvis in all of like Tarantino's movies.
Yeah, but the thing is though, Elvis was actually his. It was like the devil on his shoulder. It was his better half. Whenever he was kind of questioning things, or he was at his darkest, most like splitting moments, you have Elvis in the shot,
Yeah.
telling him to do something or not do something.
But why was Christian Slater dressed as Elvis? Like, I understand being influenced by somebody, but is Elvis sexy to women?
I think he was just infatuated with Elvis and his music. I think that's what it was. He just had that infatuation with that character.
I guess. I don't know. It was weird to me, that part. I like the actors that were in the movie: Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper, Bronson Pinchot. Yeah, Balky from Perfect Strangers.
Yeah.
Michael Rappaport, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Samuel L. Jackson, James Gandolfini, Sean Penn, and Tom Sizemore.
Wow.
Yeah, that weirdo.
I just wanted to I have very minor notes during this movie because I
Okay.
didn't have a lot of feelings about this because I thought it's a very simple movie, you know? Basically the premise of what I told you is what it is.
But you know what's funny? It's produced by Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Like, did anybody catch that?
Yeah, I noticed that, and as I was watching, I'm like, wow, this would definitely turn some heads now if they saw that intro title.
Oh my God. And also directed by Tony Scott. I don't know if you know Tony Scott's work.
I don't, but I assume Nigel's about to go hook me up with that.
Yeah. So Tony Scott has done movies such as Man on Fire, which is a good movie. He's also done The Fan, Unstoppable, Domino,
Okay.
and one of my personal Top Gun is another.
Oh, he
movie
did
that he's
Top
done.
Gun?
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah. It's Tony Scott and his brother. I forgot the other his brother's name, but they've done like tons of movies together. He does a lot of movies. Like
I did Beverly Hill Cop.
No, yes, he did actually.
The second one.
The second one. He also did Last Boy Scout. Like, there's a lot of movies that Tony Scott's done.
Yeah.
He passed away a couple years back, but he's definitely a great director.
No, definitely. I saw that in the movie. One thing I want to say about True Romance is it had a very heartwarming intro.
Did it?
It did. If you when you get past the bar scene and it's just him and the girl. And it's just him and the girl. They're chatting. They're kind of building their relationship together. I felt that was kind of like it was a Tarantino way of being genuine.
I guess it was weird for me because the whole time I'm like, why is you're talking about when Patricia Arquette came in?
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole time I was like, why is she hitting on him?
Yeah, I know. It was really weird. At first, I thought it was the same girl from the bar.
No, I knew
Right.
it wasn't the same girl from the bar.
Well, this is my first time seeing the movie too.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so
Love you guys. Bye.
And another thing is that when it kind of showed the change in her character when I wrote call girl finds her job as wrong by finding love.
Okay.
Because this was her third day on the job, and her meeting Christian Slater's character, Clarence.
Yeah.
Clarence. when she met Clarence, that was her third client, and she said that it feels like what she's doing is wrong, and what she's doing, she's manipulating
the
emotions.
worst call girl ever.
Yeah.
Like, she could have watched Pretty Woman before doing this, and said, "Hey, I shouldn't be
Thank you
kissing
to
on the
Brienne,
first date."
Steve, and Vinny for tuning in.
Like, she's the bad at her job, and then she sent this guy to go kill her pimp.
Yeah. He killed the pimp, wanted to get back his. Do you want to go in spoiler territory or no?
Yeah, go for it.
So he killed the pimp of and I don't recommend that you go into this blind, but we did, so we're doing this for you. So he went to the brothel.
Right.
He killed the pimp, played by Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
Which was really cool.
There's a quote that I love this. He says, "Marty, look like we got a Charlie Bronson here."
It's a great line.
I thought that was hilarious because obviously Charles Bronson, Death Wish.
Yeah.
So that's why I
think
found
that I just think that but his character was just so great.
But I love what he said. It ain't white boy day.
Yeah, but it's just no. He asked his partner.
It's a white boy
John,
day.
Is this white boy day? And his other guy says, "No, it ain't white boy day."
One thing I found really interesting though is when I was watching that scene. Well, first let me just say, he went to go get her clothes. That was the whole objective of it.
Right.
And he ended up stealing a carton, not a carton, but a suitcase of
drugs.
Of cocaine, yeah. But his license got stolen when he was getting beaten up by the guards.
Yeah.
And my first thought when that scene was happening, like, get your license back. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
They showed that they have your license.
And we're spoiled by other movies of telling us, "Hey, you're not supposed to leave your license there."
Yeah.
And the murder scene.
But no, it's not even that though. It's just the thought, hey, someone reached into your personal belongings and took something, take it back.
Yeah.
Just that concept.
But I don't think you're thinking that after you killed some people. I don't think you're like, "Hey, I left my wallet. I should go back and get it."
I feel like that'd be an afterthought when you leave the scene. Another thing I want to say, they played Outshined by Soundgarden. Get a point for me for that.
Okay.
And also, last note that I have here before I just kind of divulged into the movie was there was a constant use of sirens as symbolism.
Okay.
Whenever you hear sirens in the background, there's always going to be either some scene where they go to the cops,
Right.
or there's like some sort of trouble about to go down. It's kind of the equivalent of just Red being in the shot,
I particularly liked Bronson Pinchot in the movie. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I like seeing him outside of Perfect Strangers because he played Balki Bartokomous for like 8 years straight. Like, and that was the biggest thing in the 80s is to watch these two guys, Balki and Cousin Larry. So to see him in other movies, like, I get excited because now he's not doing the Balki thing.
Yeah.
And it's fake. like that was the best part for me.
Yeah, but that was overall. It was overall a good movie. A lot of it was just me kind of going for the ride. I want to kind of leave some surprise for the audience who hasn't
True.
seen it yet. I'm not going to give it a rating. Gary Oldman's probably my favorite thing about that movie. Agreed there, Vinny. But but I think that overall it's a fun watch. It's not like I didn't find it like a remarkable movie. I just found it a really fun movie.
It was. I mean, for its time, it was like
For its time, yeah.
It was one of those cult movies that everybody was talking about. Yo, have you ever seen True Romance? Like,
Yeah.
It was one of those things that people were talking about. But then it got overshadowed by movies like Pulp Fiction and everything else that like came out like afterwards.
True Romance is
Christopher
it's a very subtle movie. That's what I like about it.
It is, and also Christopher Walken playing the
bad guy.
the bad guy. That's
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, like Christopher Walken, I think that's his second mob boss I've seen him play. I think he also was in King of New York. Yeah.
The guy you can piss off by calling him a Sicilian.
Oh my God. Yeah, we had a whole conversation about that. We talked about the use of the N-word in Tarantino movies because he overly uses it.
He used it twice in the movie, I think.
No, he kept saying, he said it like...
Oh, in that conversation.
Not in that conversation.
Oh, okay.
It's like, okay, you can let it fly, but it was like, kept going like...
It's for shock value.
Yeah, it's too much shock. Like he's used it in every movie that he's like either written or directed. So like movies like what was the movie? I can't can't think of the movie right now.
Django?
But not even Django. It's not about Django.
Pulp Fiction it
It's
was in.
mostly like Pulp Fiction. It's mostly like movies that don't need it. Django needed it because that was a sign of the time.
It needed it. It didn't need it as much.
It
but
didn't need it
was-
as much, but I can understand that.
Yeah.
When it's like present day type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are you using this? Like, why is this part of the language that you're using here? Obviously,
Yeah.
either you like black people or you hate black people. Either way, like, it's weird.
I think
and it's
Tarantino's
off-putting.
expressing his disdain for like everyone.
I think so, but it's off-putting when he does it because anytime you use that
Well,
word,
there's no without getting into
Yeah.
getting into this. there's no really term as drawing as that.
Right.
So that's where I guess it is.
Hey.
But overall, I just want to say I enjoyed True Romance. I recommend watching it. What about you?
I recommend watching it as well.
Okay.
I did like it to what, like, all the way through.
I did.
Watching James Gandolfini.
And it
all
was a nice change of pace too after like kind of forcing myself through The Punisher, being able to kind of sit back through True Romance and kind of just like, yes, this is nice.
Did you feel like you had to force yourself through Punisher?
There's some episodes, yeah.
Oh
Some
my
parts
God.
were really like trudging. Keep in mind, I watched it all in one sitting. I watched a lot of these shows in one
All
sitting.
right. So let's get to our next one.
All right, so next up we have recommended by Mark as well, 7 Seconds.
7 seconds.
7 Seconds is a Emmy-nominated series, one season on
Yes.
Netflix.
Yes.
It is a show that the way I could describe it best is it's a very long Law and Order conspiracy episode.
Okay.
That's the best way I could describe it. So so you have this character in the opening scene, Pete Jablinski.
Mm-hmm.
He runs over this child, Brenton, who's riding his bicycle through a park.
Right. Brenton Butler.
Then he stops his car. He has backup come by. Mm-hmm. He's talking to his superior.
Okay.
And the superior says, "Go on, we'll take care of it." And he's like, "But it's the scene. I should call the force. We
Right.
should get like people down here. We should get troops."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "No, go ahead. What do you think it'll do? This is a selfish action of you. It'll like ruin the entire precinct."
Okay.
And one thing that I wanted to notice though in the very beginning is that when he hits the kid, he had this he did a use of subtle acting that I noticed,
Mm-hmm.
where he's sitting there kind of like in shock of what he did. And what this reminds me of, I don't know if you saw it, Hereditary.
No.
In Hereditary, the one of the Naked Brothers guys who was in the movie, he when he accidentally murders someone in the movie, that's like the best use of subtle acting I've ever seen. Just sits there in shock for 2 minutes straight. And this TV show, I felt like could have almost achieved it, but it was just not done with a
I
dramatic
mean,
angle from that.
I like.
But-
Listen, I like the fact of the subject matter that they used. Basically, what it was it was a cop that hit a black kid on a bicycle,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of trying to help the kid, they didn't want to make sure that it was another Ferguson, or
Mm-hmm.
another thing, another white cop kills black kids. So what they tried to do was try to hide it. So
by throwing it in an open ditch like 20 feet away.
I mean, they're not the smartest people in the world, but they wanted to basically not. They were trying to prevent something, and they found out that the cover up and the lie made it bigger. It made it bigger, and like I love the fact of the emotional things that were happening with the family. So the emotional things that were happening with the family, the cop that hit the kid's family, and how it affected the rest of the department.
It was very much. It reminded me kind of the movie Clash,
Yes.
where you have a bunch of different perspectives on the same
Right.
angle. You have so one thing that just to notice,
Mm-hmm.
you have the cops trying to get away with it, the detective and lawyer trying to uncover the mystery,
Right.
and then you have the family of the victim trying to get trying to like
trying to get justice.
get justice and kind of
Mm-hmm.
feel better about the whole situation. Feel like that they can sleep at night.
Well, it was hard. I mean, it was emotional on every single end because everybody was dealing with something. Even the prosecutor. Prosecutor was dealing with the fact that she had an alcoholism problem,
And she was also a bad prosecutor.
Bad prostitute. No, Stephen, let's go back. She wasn't a prostitute. She was an ADA.
Her name was Alabama.
That's right.
Man, what a misleading factoid I got there.
Yes.
Well,
But your first shot with her, and I just want to say this before I go back to
Right.
breaking this down. Your first shot with her was her in a courtroom trying to defend one of her clients, and when she's on the defense, she has a wrong court case come up, and she's very
Right.
disheveled as she walks walks in and she's late.
But I've seen plenty prosecutors do that. Like if you ever go to a courtroom,
it's a common thing, but it was a
common
character
thing.
development thing.
The character development was, for me, was the fact that like I would see her drunk, I would see her in court, and I would see her. I knew the fact that she slept with everybody in the department.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like all the cops knew that she got around. Like everybody knew that she had a reputation.
they definitely lose
So
that
she was
quite
the
a bit.
worst person to go against all of these cops. You know, and then you have this new guy, this new I forgot his name, but you have this new detective that comes in from New York that nobody really knows, and he's trying to fit in, and he has all these wisecrack jokes. But now he actually has to investigate something that potentially is linked to all of these other cops.
Yeah. And another thing, it's with the show, the overall, with the pacing of it, that's one of the things I just want to touch upon. First episode is great. First
Right.
episode's insane. I think there's this one scene in that was really cool that kind of got my blood pumping a bit.
Okay.
Because after the scene in the beginning, it kind of slowed down for a bit, then it slowed, started picking back up, where you see this little girl waiting outside her school, and you see the teacher say, "Where's your ride?" And she says, "Oh, it's my brother. He should be here soon." What grade is he in? 6th grade. Oh, they were let out early. And then she said, he rides a bicycle, and instantly that connects with the audience. Oh, is that the kid?
Right, and everybody thought that was the kid.
Exactly.
Like,
and then they show the kid's like BMXing with the stolen bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but that's the one thing I found really interesting. And then the show, it's a 10-episode series.
Okay.
It slows down for about 4 episodes. It's kind of, it doesn't really need at those points. I was actually texting Nigel when I was watching it.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm like, this doesn't need to be an hour long for each episode. But then the second half is when like they discovered who the criminal was early on, about the 5th or 6th episode.
Yeah,
And then from that point forward, it was just tension building up in the last half of the show.
Right. I mean,
and
but
that's
that
when it got
makes
really
the
good
show.
for me.
Yeah, that makes the show. Once we have something, once we know that like they're trying to cover their tracks and do all this other stuff. Like once we know that, then it works. Like I like the show.
And so do I, but I also like the characters that it showed. Like Pete never wanted to be the kind of guy to cover up that crime. He wanted to turn it in right away, be a man of the law. The officer's name, I forgot his name, the captain.
Okay.
I never sympathized with him at all, and I think that
I don't think you're supposed to.
I know you're not supposed to, but that was a big detriment to the show, in my opinion, because I feel like you should understand his perspective, and nothing he did made me remotely think that anything he was doing was out of
Steven, let's be clear. What character you're talking about?
the captain of the force who told him to cover up the murder.
He's
No.
He's talking about the unit.
You're talking about the unit leader, not
yeah,
the
the
captain.
unit, not
Yeah, the
captain.
unit leader.
Captain
He
was
was actually a rank of
captain's the other
sergeant.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
right,
believe he was a
sergeant.
rank of sergeant. So you're talking about the leader of that particular narcotics unit.
right. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Okay, so yeah, well, he was really a dirty cop.
No, he was a very
And
dirty
He's doing
cop.
what he does best, although it shouldn't be like that.
Well, this show, they slowly unfold about how much of a dirty cop he is, but it's really not any surprise.
Right.
But when you have this guy in the scene, I feel like this show really tried to perpetuate the real life element of what's going on.
Right.
It really tried to make a statement on society, and I think that with this officer, you should at least understand at the most basic of forms why he is doing this, why this makes sense in his head at the very least. So this way, it can make you kind of more compelled into what's going on. But the fact that they didn't do that, and I never felt that it was in anyone's interest but himself, and he made people believe that it was in their interest, but they weren't. And the only time I saw him try to say it wasn't in his interest was towards the end during the court scene. But even then, when he said that it wasn't in his interest, turn him in, go whatever, and then he's just like, you can tell it's a lie, and it's also about himself.
Right.
So it's just, I feel like that itself could have been much stronger with that aspect. If that one character was stronger, I feel like it would have made the whole tug of war game on 4 ends much more stronger.
I mean, yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. However, like I do see like him as not really like less than a secondary character, because you have all these other characters that they're using. You have Manny. You have also the Spanish character. I forgot his name. Was it Cisco or something like that? I forget.
I remember.
But you also had him, which they also had bigger parts like that. I believe they said more than him.
They did
the whole time.
And you could tell that, and they also kind of like, you could tell that they had more kind of care, especially the Latino, was the Hispanic Latino cop. He was more so like a good guy at heart, kind of stuck in this bad situation of the crooked.
A lot of them were good guys at heart, stuck in a bad situation, or they portrayed their they're supposed to look like that. So you can see how something that you're trying to do is good come out so wrong. Like they all were supposed to be good guys, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. They're all flawed.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, and they were okay with it. Like I had a problem with Peter Jablonski's wife, who was okay with the fact that
when you could tell at the beginning she wasn't okay with it, but she'd rather have a father in the life of her kid, which is another thing. In the beginning, which made me hate that officer was that he kind of pulled on Pete's heartstrings by saying, well, listen, don't you have a wife you should be talking to? Because he was on the phone with his wife during the accident. And then and his wife was 5 months pregnant.
Right.
So that's a really douche thing to do.
I mean, yeah, but there was a lot of stuff that they were doing that was just like douchey.
Yeah, I know, but that was like how you started the show. It really set the mood for that. And one thing I also wanted to note was the development of the mom.
Okay.
The mom of Brenton. She
as Regina King.
Yeah, she was great. There's this scene you see it throughout the show turn from a loving, caring mother of a child who may have turned gang or not,
right,
into someone who just wanted revenge.
Right.
And you see there's a scene where she goes to with her kid to get a gun. And the child's like, listen, this isn't a toy. If you buy it, you need to use it. You need to understand that once you go down this timeline, you can never go back.
Right. You're talking about her brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law's, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so what they did is they brought out a stray dog, tied it to a chain, and they said, shoot it.
Yeah.
And when he said shoot it, she says, no, I'm not going to do that. Let him go. And he's like, if you can't shoot a dog, you can't shoot a man,
right,
and you're not going to be able to go down this path,
right?
Because there's no turning back.
They were trying to stop her. I like, the other thing that I liked the fact that it felt real. So for instance, a lot of times when these things happen, and you have something where like the cop killed somebody or mistakenly did something. A lot of times they try to discredit the person that they killed. So that's why they had the whole gangbanger thing in there. That's why they said that he could been dealing drugs, or why was he in the park at the same time. And there was a whole thing that happened toward the end of the show. I don't know if we want to give that away or not.
And I want to save that for the end of the review.
Okay. There was a whole thing that happened at the end where like it manifested that he wasn't as bad as everybody thought he was.
No, it wasn't.
But since it was already in the press, now everybody thinks, oh, he's this bad gangbanger type. His stepfather, his uncle was a gangbanger, and he hangs out with this and that. His bike that they said, his bike was a gang bike, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Even when he hit the kid, and they said he's probably a gangbanger.
Yeah.
Gangbanger. Don't worry about this. Go home to your family.
Just because of But another thing I wanted to note about the mother is that she abandoned religion. Because the father was so focused, he was such a heavy, devout Christian father.
Right.
And during that whole thing, he kept looking to the God and the pastor.
Yeah.
And the mother is like, why would I pray to a God that would take my child from me when and I'm praying for him to live, and someone out there is praying for him to die, and he answered that prayer instead of mine. And when she said that, when she gave her perspective on there, and you see that the husband is more self-interested using religion towards that respect, opposed to the mother who's using it for coping and for forgiveness and for justice.
But it happens with a lot of families, especially when they can't explain why their child is dead.
No, it does. But I think that was a very important part of her development. And switching over to the detective and the ADA.
What was his name?
I forgot his name. I'll look it up actually because I had it.
It was something. It was
he was a great character.
Yeah, he was a good character. I forgot his name.
Let's see if I can get the cast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters. It was really hard for me to remember all their names. Michael. Oh, no, sorry. Michael Mosley was the actor. Joe Rinaldi.
Rinaldi. That's what it was. Rinaldi. Yeah, I knew it started with ended with an I.
Yeah.
Rinaldi was a good character.
So with first of all, Rinaldi was he was the comic relief of the show.
He was.
He was great. He was my favorite part of that show.
And he never leaned toward a certain way. Like in the beginning, remember? Like
no, he started really just kind of like lazy.
Yeah.
And then the ADA kicked his ass in gear, and then he kind of moved forward and continued with like his
because
style.
he himself said he's probably a gang member.
Yeah.
You know?
And also, one thing to know is this show takes place in Jersey City.
Right.
That's something kind of important that's relevant to all this. One thing that I really liked is they brought in this girl, Nadine, who was a child. She was 16 and a prostitute on the street. This time was a prostitute. She was a prostitute on the streets.
And it was weird and creepy.
It was. And then
Oh
she
my
kept
God.
kept making references about her
Her
nether
hair down
regions.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
And then she's like, I'm like a child. I bet you like children, don't you?
Ugh.
She was pulling that kind of stuff quite a bit.
It was so nasty to me.
I know, and I think it was.
I hate pedophiles.
But she was good to make you feel nasty like that. She was a really good actor at that. And one thing that to note is the first time you're really introduced to her is with the dirty cop. Keep forgetting his name, with the mustache.
Right.
That. I have a mustache here, so that doesn't work. But yeah, so that's the first encounter. Then he just drove away. But one thing is that throughout the show, Nadine and Detective Rinaldi build this kind of relationship.
True. Yes.
And one thing that's so refreshing is I'm so sick of love interests. You heard me say this in Punisher. I was really happy to hear that Rinaldi was having a father-daughter kind of relationship with this girl, and because he had the fatherhood relationship with his dogs. He had about 6 dogs. I think 2 of them were super ill.
Yeah.
And she was sympathetic towards that, and you see the trust that they're building, and that's one thing that I was really invested in was their trust. Is that if anything happened to her, and Rinaldi was there, and he said, "If you touch a hair on her head, I will kill you," and you can feel that he meant it.
Yeah.
And he hated her at first.
You talking about D'Angelo?
What?
That was the sergeant.
The sergeant, yeah.
Mike D'Angelo.
Sergeant D'Angelo, that's right. But
Yes.
yeah, I thought that was really good. I think that
The prosecutor's name was KJ Harper.
yeah, and I think that's right, KJ. I kept forgetting about that. But
And it's Fish Rinaldi.
and before we go into the ending of the show, are any more thoughts that you want to say?
No. I honestly felt like it ended realistically.
Well, we're about to go
For me,
into detail with it.
Yeah.
One thing I want to note is the cousin, the cousin of the wife of Karine, not Pete. Sorry, Pete Jablonski.
Right.
Was that the cousin was never really she knew Pete wasn't really that great of a guy from the beginning.
Right. She knew.
And you kind of hated her at first for it, but then you kind of got to understand it over time because you find Pete to be abusive.
Right.
And
well, I knew something was going to happen because of that car.
yeah,
You know.
but when she finds the piece of evidence that seals the entire fate.
Exactly.
One thing that I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, they did the kind of the Halloween dissonant notes. It's like dun dun.
Oh no,
dun.
I didn't even pay attention to that.
I noticed that when she found it, and then you see her walking to the front of the house, and then she runs into Rinaldi.
Rinaldi, yeah.
But I noticed that was a really cool detail. Another thing to mention is that one of the revealing facts of of Brenton was that he was I couldn't tell he was gay or bisexual. They didn't reveal specifically.
yeah.
But he had a male partner, and his male partner he found comfort in, and the father realized that what the father realized that the household that he built led for the father to not be someone who he can be very open with
Right.
about the whole situation.
But that's big, especially for African American men.
Yeah.
That's huge for finding that out.
Yeah.
So that was crazy, especially when he kicked down his boyfriend down the flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Get out of my house." When the boyfriend was very obvious about it.
Right.
And everyone else knew. The mom had a suspicion; she didn't know, but everyone else, aside from them,
But
knew.
you know what? There was foreshadowing in the first episode when they said you didn't really know your son.
Yeah.
You were working. A lot of times that happens where fathers are always working and they don't really know their children like that. They just know a version of them.
Yeah, and another thing to note is I think that that Brenton was never involved in gangs.
He wasn't.
He was never involved, so the bike was I think borrowed.
Borrowed from his gang member friend.
Yeah, so he was never involved in gangs. He was just a good kid,
Right.
Living his life, finding
Love
comfort.
seagulls.
Love seagulls, finding comfort in his boyfriend, and I think it was and I think that with that whole development led for a whole new perspective kind of on it.
Right.
Even for people who agreed with the killers or who disagreed, it's like it kind of gave you that perspective. Leading into the ending, which the final 2 episodes, which were my favorite, were court scenes.
Okay.
But when I'm watching those court scenes, I'm like, man, I want to watch Suits right now. But the court scenes, they
With the 2 big prosecutors.
and with what was his name, Sam Harrison.
Yeah, Sam and KJ, 2 women who chose
A
men's
white and a
names.
black woman, too.
Yeah, they chose men's names, which is funny because one was wearing all white and the girl was wearing all black.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that?
No, I didn't.
That was hilarious. But yeah, 2 women who chose men's names to get to throw their weight around.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it was a heavyweight fight against these 2.
Yeah, and I think I really thought that the whole back and forth was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Seeing how KJ won some battles, lost some battles, Sam won some
Right.
battles, lost some battles, and Sam seemed to be, she had really nothing to lose.
She didn't.
It was just a client she was appointed by the state. So it was more the fact that
I thought that she was the DA's wife at one point.
I don't remember that.
You remember there was a scene where this woman was trying to beat up KJ, and I thought for a second that that's who Sam was, because they were all nervous that Sam was coming, and I was like, why is she so nervous? Like, did they have history? Did she sleep with her husband? Like, I didn't quite know what was the backstory between the 2 of them. Yeah.
Rolling the cuffs up for this one.
Yeah, I didn't understand that part, But go ahead.
Yeah, and to the back and forth was great. I think that the whole court scenes were great. One thing that to notice, since we're spoiling the show,
What didn't you like?
I didn't like that they killed Nadine. They killed her for the process for officer, what's his name, Officer D'Angelo. Officer D'Angelo.
Yeah, Felix kills Nadine.
For them to because she was basically going to be the mic drop. She was going to be the bombshell in the whole situation.
She was the key witness.
Because she watched the whole scene take
right,
place.
she was the key witness. So, I mean, I don't know why you hated that.
I know I didn't hate that. What I hated was that when they killed her,
Right.
you don't see what happened beyond that. Is that they killed her and they left so much unknown afterwards. There's so many unfulfilled questions.
But it's like I said, and we had this discussion off air, but it's hard to prove that these men killed that girl because she was a known junkie. I understand, yes. The whole thing was she smoked meth, but she didn't shoot up.
Yeah.
So there's no way of proving that, especially if you're a known junkie.
Well,
Maybe you just wanted to elevate one day and you're like, I'm going to do this.
This is where the show contradicted itself, because that they triangulated the signal of Doctor and D'Angelo,
Right.
and of everyone else by the cellular towers. But they couldn't do that when they brought the girl out there.
I mean, we don't know if they brought their phones with them.
We don't know, but we also don't know if she had a phone or not either.
We don't know, and that's what leaves like a lot to to chance. Because if I'm busted for you triangulating my phone or whatnot, I'm not bringing my phone again.
Yeah.
I'm never bringing my phone.
Yeah, but we also don't. One thing we don't know if they were going to explain a lot of these in a lot of this in season 2, which is why I'm
Right.
not being super hard on this.
Yes.
Even though that personally I wouldn't watch it again, but I thought it was fulfilling. If you can watch it in like installments,
Right.
Watching it in one sitting is going to kill you. I watched it in one sitting. It's going to
I
kill
watched it
you.
in one sitting.
But I think that if you watch it like 2 episodes here and there, that you're going to have a good time with it. One thing that I wanted to note is that this show was a social commentary, heavily. It spoke about the white versus black communities, and I don't want to get too involved in this because I don't want to piss off any audiences. But it spoke.
Piss them off. No, I'm just.
But it spoke about that, and the ending I thought was fantastic in the sense where it left you unfulfilled as if it was reality.
Right.
There's a lot of things that you felt weren't great, like when they got the final sentence for
That was
for the guy.
realistic.
They I think he got what, 6 years?
Yeah, something like that. No, he didn't. He got 365
That's
days.
right. He got a year in parole.
Yeah, you get a year and a day. Well, he got less than a year because normally for a felony, it's a year and a day.
Yeah.
They gave him 365 days, which makes it not a felony. Also, he's on parole.
And they also mentioned in the show that because he's an officer, he gets more privileges because of that.
Right.
They specifically mentioned that.
That's usually what happens.
That's what Sam.
And that's
was
the
mentioning.
sad. That's the sad thing. I mean, that's what happens basically. Like you want justice to be served, but justice isn't always on your side.
And that officer didn't turn in anyone else who was involved, which still never made sense to me because he owed nothing to them. them.
Hey man, you don't rat on your crew.
He owed nothing to those guys. They put him in that shit show. He could have gotten away so much
You
easier.
don't rat on your crew.
If he called the precincts right away and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, this is manslaughter," he could have gotten it way easier with all this stuff.
And let's just
You know,
go.
you're also, which I'm not going to say for anybody who's going to watch this.
Right.
Even though we spoiled
There's
everything.
something. What's that?
Even though we spoiled everything.
No, it's
no.
not really spoiling.
Oh, okay.
There's something that they establish in the court scenes, which is important about Brenton,
Right.
about what happens to him. All right. So if I say it now, it's going to ruin the whole
Right,
thing.
no,
but
I
you
understand.
have to understand that something could have been done while he was still laying in that park.
Right.
All right. And that's an important thing towards the end
That's
of the
important,
movie.
right.
Very important.
Yeah, I know, but that goes back to my point though, because I know it collects with me. But you could have just called the cops. You could have just said, "Hey, I did this," and then those other cops who were trying to knock him out of it, they would have just gotten like completely torn apart because they tried to incite a crime.
Because it's the thin blue line. That's basically what it is. They all back each other up.
I support the thin blue line, but those guys were assholes.
They were. I'm not gonna lie.
And anyway, to close it off, I hated D'Angelo. I still don't get anything about that character.
Okay.
And he seemed like, and the issue was that he didn't seem genuine with anything in the actions that he did. He just kept seeming like he's like, hey, I'm playing Fallout 3 right now. Here's my list of options.
Okay.
I want to click the option that gives me the worst karma possible. And that's what he did for every single decision during the show.
That because he was a dirty guy, man.
Yeah, and like there you see him go into like gang busts and they said he has percentages of cuts and things like that. But yeah, anyway, overall the show I'm very neutral on it. I say for me it's average because the first half was really lacking, the second half was really great.
Right.
But I think it's worth the watch. Pace yourself.
Yeah, I give it the jump cut stamp of approval.
The stamp of approval. All right.
You want to do Future Man first before we do Psycho?
Yeah, let's do it.
right.
Future Man. You want to give him this one? I feel like it's just a lot of talking.
No, honestly, like,
Give this concept of the show.
oh my God, I don't even know how to. Okay, so
All right.
Future Man, season one, it was a guy who played video games.
Yeah.
And basically, these people from the future said that he can only fix the future.
No, all right. You skipped over
Yeah.
so much. All
Yeah,
right.
I don't remember.
All right.
I'm fried by this show.
All right. I gotta go. Clear out my mouth. Ring. Okay.
Okay.
Future Man is about a character named John Futterman. Was his name?
Yes.
John. Okay. Jake.
Josh.
Josh Futterman. Thank you. Played by the guy who played PETA in Hunger Games.
Okay.
And John Hutchinson, I want to say his name was, but but basically he made it. He was a janitor at this corporation.
Okay.
Who the corporation comes into play later in the show.
Right.
He was, and I don't have notes for this, so I don't know why I'm bothering.
Well,
looking at this.
basically, yeah,
and he's
basically-
basically playing this game as his escape, and the game is unbeatable. Is deemed unbeatable.
Until he beats it.
Yeah, until he's dedicates it and he realizes that there's like the thing outside the box, which is such a simple solution. But he thought outside the box and then he beat it. And when he beat it, you see two people come back in time, two characters, Wolf and Tiger.
Right, and he found out he's the chosen one.
Yes, and he ejaculates on them, which is fantastic. But that's because the show's co-written by Seth Rogen.
Right.
But but they say that he's the chosen one because his last name's Futterman, and they think he's the future man.
Oh.
And with the and when they're breaking that down, they say, "Oh, aren't you skilled to do these things?" Like, no, I just played a video game. It's like, are video games not training simulators in your time? No, they're escapes. They're the exact opposite of those things.
Right.
And they're like, crap. So they're trying to figure things out, lacking basic knowledge of the times because of their time. They're the resistance, basically, because the corporation Kronos Corp, I think it was called, where Josh worked for, created a super cure made out of possum fluids,
Right.
where it would cure every disease.
Cure herpes, it was,
It was
right?
cure herpes, which then expanded to every disease.
Okay.
Because the founder had herpes, and then you find that the Tiger and Wolf were part of a resistance, and the resistance was because they resisted to take the vaccine.
Right.
So they're forced to either take the vaccine to stabilize humanity and make it kind of invulnerable,
Okay.
or kill them.
Okay.
And that's kind of what it
That's
came down
kind
to.
of what the basis is. So now we're in season 2.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that them being trapped under a this is backed out. Them being trapped under a under like the sewers for so long, they lack common sense, and that's where Josh comes in. He kind of has the common sense of the time.
So basically, at the end, we find out that Josh saves the day, right?
yeah.
And then I was confused.
This is where me and Nigel flip. This is the part where I like the season.
I
Nigel hates
was
it.
confused about what was happening in season 2.
I had no confusion.
I was confused because from what I remember from season 1, he saved the day. Now,
No, he didn't.
that's what I thought. And then like I find out he was in jail, or there's some kind of Matrix thing that's going on where he's like in like a whole like vat full of semen, and he comes out and pops up and he has this little thing in the back of his head.
You find out that because they were running him. You see that they were time traveling quite a bit. And then he was put into like another simulation.
Okay.
And the simulation that he was in ended up realizing, like, hey, I'm in a simulation. And then he's like, great, I'm in another one of these things again, where now we have to go back in time, we have to save things or whatever with a new group of people.
Yeah, and it was nuts. It was like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome meets like the weirdest version of Star Wars I've ever seen.
It was insane. It
was insane. Like every episode, I'm like, why am I watching this? What's going on? This is not as enjoyable as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, he's not the savior anymore. He's not the chosen one. And there's so many duplicates and so many different like people popping up and so much time travel mess going on that I'm like, yo, I don't have the patience.
Basically,
for this.
their objective was to use Josh's mind to overload the circuit, because this planet was this was a timeline where basically everyone was being sent to Mars because they screwed up the Earth so badly, or Mars.
Mars, yeah.
And
I caught that earlier.
so did I. And then I noticed the dots. I'm like, why is it an acronym?
Mm-hmm.
But they and then one thing they decided, like, this is no way to live, a way of perfection, a way of idealism. That's not a life we want. So they wanted to upload Josh's consciousness in order to overload the circuitry and break the system.
Confusing.
One thing they did with the show that was really brilliant was that when they went into the mainframe of the computer, every aspect of the computer, like security and everything, were actual people.
Okay.
Like security was like a security guard, and then you had like the bug was actually
that part I liked.
That was really cool.
You know, the firewall, the data transfer lady. Like I like that. It was like a whole club thing, and it was a whole protocol thing that was happening. That was cool.
Yeah.
There was little parts that I liked, but I was confused. I fell asleep 3 times in 3 days watching the show.
Well, see, that's a show that I watched over the course of a week.
No, I tried to watch it. Every time I watched it, like I was struggling. I was forcing myself to watch the show.
See, I enjoyed it. For me, it was a lot. The show is. I didn't take the show too seriously because it's not meant to be taken seriously.
I know it's not meant to be taken seriously.
But when watching the show, it was more along the lines of like, hey, the first season was very wacky and it was about time travel and everything.
Right.
It was awesome. And this season was the first 5 episodes focused on the actor who plays Wolf. That guy is an amazing actor.
He's an amazing actor. Don't get me wrong. Like I like him.
And what I liked and didn't like is I liked that he had the obsession with Corey Hart, which then led to him kind of like realize, oh, I'm a great chef too and everything. Yeah. And then he's led to take care of this really
His
big
whole 80s thing in the first season was great.
And then they led him to take care of this big family, which we were talking about on Chrissy's show, which is why I said we'd talk about it here.
Yeah.
He was taking care of this big family with multiple kids and everything, and he was
Men and women.
Yeah, but every single role he was put in, he owned.
Right.
And like I'm saying, as Wolf too.
Right.
Is he owned it and he wanted to keep to it. And Wolf was sick of like the whole thing of just traveling through time trying to save the world that couldn't be saved. And I thought that was brilliant. But it lasted 5 episodes for all that. I'm like, could we get back to the pacing now? That could have lasted 2 or 3 episodes.
It took too long for me. I was weirded out. I was like, why is he making wheels all the time? I'm like, yo, I can't. There was a couple episodes in season 1 which did the same thing, which I was like, let's get back to the main story. Which I wanted story progression. Like I was waiting for the story to like what's going on, what's going to happen. Like it never kept me in a place where like I'm following you. It was always there's an episode about this. This is an episode about what's the other character?
Tiger.
Her whole thing and her twin's voice annoying.
That's the point though.
I couldn't do it.
It was annoying.
It was too annoying for
me
very
to
annoying. Watch it.
But that was the point.
For how many episodes was she in? Like
6.
6. To watch her do that voice for 6 episodes, I turned it off.
Yeah.
And Haley Joel Osment as an adult is weird.
Well, he was also in a bunch of other shows as an adult.
I know, but he
was in the first season
he's
too.
He's just a strange lumberjack bear-looking short man
with a child face.
Yeah. Like this is the same kid that was on Full House. Like Like Haley Joel Osment is weird. He could see dead people, and now he's actual dead person.
No, I think that. Well, he was in the first season.
He was in the
that's
first
very
season,
important.
yeah,
You have to watch the first season and watch the
scientist, right.
second. But when watching this show, though, it's a lot of it was trying to focus on building lore and characters. I think that's what they're trying to do.
I think so.
And build forward to what I think is going to be a really insane third season.
It was.
But
the ending was nuts.
Yeah, but I think overall the show is just like, it's a fun show. It's not amazing. It's not terrible.
I see what they were trying. Like I get it. I see what
It's way better than I expected for a Hulu original.
Yes,
Hulu might have a chance.
A lot of Hulu originals aren't that great. You know, the Mindy Project.
But there's what was that one, that Marvel one they were doing, The Runaways?
Oh, The Runaways. I tried to watch it. I fell asleep. That's my guide.
Right, keep in mind though, he fell asleep during Hateful Eight, so his opinion about falling asleep isn't always valid.
But that's my guide for every movie. Like if I fall asleep, it's gonna take me a while.
Your
to actually
guide
watch
requires coffee.
Hey, listen, coffee, Red Bull, whatever you got for me to watch your movie. I've fell asleep through the
We'll
best
just
movies.
do an IV drip over his.
I fell asleep through the best movies. Iron Man 2, The Incredible Hulk.
The best movies, Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk. Is that
What else?
sarcasm?
No, I'm serious. I fell asleep.
No,
it
it's
doesn't
just-
mean
no,
that I don't like them.
But they're not good movies.
Avengers 2. I can keep going.
These are not good movies.
Fast and Furious 7. I still don't know how that movie ended.
You're better off. You're better off not knowing how anything after Fast and Furious 1 ended.
Anything that has an explosion in it, I'm snoring through.
I remember whenever we used to work at a movie theater, we used to see midnight screenings, and I used to just pass out. I had to see Jurassic World 8 times.
Oh my god.
I passed out like after the first, and my brother had me go see it. My friends had me go see it because I was the movie theater guy. I
Right.
got the free passes.
Yeah.
Look at me. Do you want butter on your popcorn? But we went to go see the movie, and I'm like, can we please see something good? It's such a bad movie, and they just kept making me see it, and I kept falling asleep. And like, Steve, what the hell? You're falling asleep.
It's Jurassic World.
You were falling asleep.
Look at the dinosaur.
Look at him. You have Chris Pratt riding dinosaurs. Like,
What else? I fell asleep through Amazing Spider-Man, the first one.
I like the first one.
I fell asleep.
But yeah, anyway, in conclusion with this, because we're taking this longer to review these than we thought.
Yeah.
I think it's worth the watch. It's fun, flawed. It's entertaining though.
Hey man, take some Ambien before you watch this, please.
Better time if you're drunk.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, American Psycho.
Oh God, another one. I was confused again.
Did you like it or no?
Did I like it? I was very confused.
Nigel's never seen this movie before. I've seen it about 6
Never
times.
seen it before. I hated Christian Bale throughout the entire movie.
Really?
Yes.
His performance or as a character?
No, as a character.
Patrick Bateman, gotcha.
Yes, I did not like Patrick Bateman. I didn't like his business cards. I didn't like his choice in music. I was like,
You don't like Huey Lewis in the News?
I love Huey Lewis in the News. I don't like him explaining to me how great Huey Lewis in the News is.
Well, see, when Sport came out back in '86,
I love sports.
I really think it came into their own.
Listen, I'm hip to be a square, man. I got the heart of rock and roll, and it's still beating.
So, American Psycho. I just want to give a quick synopsis of it. It's about a man, Patrick Bateman, who works in the New York Stock Exchange,
Right.
Who murders people for his own fantasies, and he gets away with it because he's rich and white, essentially.
Right.
And from then on, it's your interpretation.
Right. So when I first knew about this movie, and last week I said, "Is this the movie where Christian Bale's naked through the whole movie?" He told me no. This is the movie where Christian Bale is naked.
He wasn't naked through the whole
around
movie.
with a chainsaw.
He was naked in one scene, running around with the chainsaw.
The chainsaw. He did aerobics naked. No, man.
Oh, God, come on! I don't consider that.
You see his butt in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
But anyway, let me just do my quick. I don't have a lot of notes because I really love this movie.
Okay.
One thing to note is if you've seen this movie before, you know about the business card scene.
Right.
It's one of the most famous scenes alongside the
Why?
dubs. The dubs.
The dubs. But why is it so famous?
Because it's so true.
What about the business cards? Those are the worst business cards I've ever seen.
I've been working in advertising for about 3 years now, and when you're making business cards, you're looking through hundreds of types of paper that almost look identical.
And I understand. Those cards suck. I'll show you my business cards.
They're very 80s looking.
Yeah, they're very 80s.
But-
yeah. And I didn't know it was 87. I didn't know. I'm watching the movie. No, there's no type. There's no Chiron of
You
1987.
couldn't tell by the hairstyles?
I could not. It wasn't until I saw him with a Walkman. I'm like, why does he have his Walkman? And why does he keep talking about these old albums?
Yeah. So-
I seriously thought it happened in like the 90s, like the late 90s or early 2000s.
Well, the intro scene to mention is that the intro credits is what's called justified in type.
Okay.
Justified is when you have text that's not centered, but it's expanded to fit the edges.
Okay.
So that's one thing that they do a lot for print. So I thought that was kind of like a little allusion to there.
Okay.
One scene of foreshadowing is when I want to butcher this quote. Patrick Bateman is in the nightclub and he's at the bar.
Okay.
And he's talking to the bartender and he's trying to pay with credit, and she says, "Sorry, this is cash only." And he's like, "I'm going to kill you and bathe in your blood." I think he said something.
Yes,
really,
he did say that.
He said something to almost like that, and that was heavy foreshadowing to what he's basically going to.
He was weird, but I want to shout out a couple of actors in the movie.
Jared Leto.
Yeah, Jared Leto, William Dafoe,
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon, and Reggie Cathy. I don't know if
Yeah.
you know who that is, but he plays the homeless man. He just passed away last year.
Yeah.
He played Luke Cage's father in season 2 of Luke Cage. He's also been in Oz and The Wire. A great actor. Anyway, yeah. A couple of notes that I have written down, like I felt in the beginning, I felt triggered with all the anti-Semitic remarks and the douchebagginess of it all.
That was the point. That was very much the point. And one thing to note though is that the intro credits is Patrick Bateman's morning routine.
Okay.
Him getting ready, exfoliating, and he's very pretentious about it.
Right.
And it's showing his character
His
of that.
OCD is anybody with OCD that high has got to be a murderer.
Like he said,
I don't trust anybody that perfect.
for example, when he was putting on the face mask, he says
Right.
he makes sure it's non-alcoholic because the
No.
alcohol dries out your skin.
He's a weirdo.
But what you're missing is the fact that he said that shows his pretentious attitude as a character, looking down upon anyone who doesn't do that.
Dude, I did not like him I don't like Patrick Bateman.
I loved him.
The more I watched, the more I'm like, I don't like this guy. I really didn't like. He killed a homeless guy. He kills a homeless guy for nothing. He runs around naked with a chainsaw. He shot an old lady, and then he runs away from the police. And he ran past the subway. He ran past the subway. The cops would never go down the subway.
Oh, and Chad, if you have any input on this movie, feel free to chime in.
I'm sorry.
But-
This guy is basically Billy McFarland of the Fire Festival.
I still gotta watch that
Oh,
documentary.
you gotta watch that. This guy is Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump, the biography.
And what-
That's what American Psycho is.
I'm gonna try to stay away from politics there.
No,
But
not politics. I'm talking about 80s Trump is
True,
American
yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this Trump now. No, I'm talking about, I want to build a Trump Tower. I'm married to Marlon Maples.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention about this movie is that Patrick Bateman describing social issues. Remember that during dinner?
Yes.
The way he's describing social issues is such a bland, generic way to show how little he understands about the world. They're sitting there talking about invasions, and he's like, "Who cares about Sri Lanka? Okay, we need to invade for terrorism and to unite the world and to stop feminism." Like he's just going down the very generic ideals that everyone can kind of agree with.
That's why I didn't like him, because he's the guy in the 80s that I would hate. He's that yuppie business guy that wears his suit a certain kind of way and a certain tie, and he's so full of himself, and he wants to eat at a specific restaurant, and I can't do it with this guy.
Patrick, I don't know. I just found him entertaining as a character. I didn't sympathize with him or anything. I just found him as an entertaining character.
No, I wanted him to get his just desserts.
So once you get to a certain point in the movie, when he first gets confused with the character, I think his name is Marty or
Right.
Marvin, because they both wear glasses. Then Patrick's
Right.
like, I have a slightly better haircut than him.
Yeah.
And that's the point where it starts going in the downward spiral. Like not in terms of quality, but in terms of his mental state. Mm-hmm. Because the movie has no definitive ending. The ending. Thanks for tuning in, Kev and Brad. It has no definitive ending, but the ending of the movie is left up to interpretation of it. It's very abstract.
Yeah.
So what it starts doing is he kills Jared Leto's character.
Uh-huh.
If you haven't seen this movie yet, it's been 19 years. You can see it. He killed He killed
I hadn't seen it yet.
well, there you go. You've seen it. It's been 19 years. So Jared Leto, he kills he gets killed early in the movie.
Right.
His name was
Paul Allen.
Paul Allen. Thank
Yep.
you for writing that down, because I kept thinking about that all day and I kept forgetting it.
I wrote it down.
So one thing to note is from that point forward is whenever Patrick Bateman was picking up a prostitute to bring back to the apartment, he always introduced himself as Paul Allen, and he
Right.
actually said he recorded his voice on the answering machine saying, "Hi, this is Paul Allen, and I'm going away for a week on London business trip."
Which I thought was weird again.
It was
because
weird.
He sounded like him.
He did, and he was more like me saying, "Hi, I'm Nigel, and I'm going away to London for a week." Would you
That
believe
sounds
that's Nigel?
exactly like me. Hey, go for it. It worked.
Yeah, we love Huey Lewis in the news. The,
Yo, I love Huey Lewis in the news. I do, but
So every
when
time
he says it,
every time you get introduced to the character, he introduces himself as a different person throughout the movie with each character that he meets. There's one slightly recurring character, which is the first prostitute that he runs into. First time, she doesn't like how weird Patrick is, because Patrick, when he's doing that train in the first sex scene, he's flexing in the mirror, looking at himself, just
Yeah.
kind of just flexing that ego. And Christian Bale killed it on that part.
he did.
He was great.
I have to applaud him. For me to hate him that much means that he did such a great job on this movie.
Yeah.
You know, because I really hated him the whole time. And it reminded me of the same character that he played in Shaft.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, I can't do this with this guy.
But one thing I wanted to get closing this up.
Sure.
Business card scene, iconic. I recommend looking it up. I recommend looking up the Huey Lewis in the news scene. One of the bands I listen to, actually, Ice Nine Kills, they did a mock of that scene for their new album release.
Oh, they did it
And
back in time?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I was
it
just
was-
going to do Huey Lewis in the news references all night.
But it was that was really good. One thing to note is that to the end, Patrick he starts running from the cops, and the scene where he's at the ATM and it says he's holding a stray cat, and he's debating on killing it because he killed the dog earlier in the
Right.
movie, and it says feed the cat or something like that. He said feed me a cat. Yeah.
the ATM said that to him.
Yeah, and then he put the cat against the machine and started meowing. Then he heard cop sirens, and he blew up the cars with his pistol.
And that's what I didn't understand. When he
Because-
ran away from the cops, there was a subway station right there.
But
He could've ran right in.
But what's so
took the
important
one
about that?
uptown.
But what was so important about that scene is that when you saw the ATM machine, that's when it started going into insanity. Chasing hookers down a hallway with the chainsaw is the ultimate fantasy. Yes, it is. But that when he was at the ATM is when he was ultimately. When he ultimately started going insane, when you're not understanding what you're seeing, because once you're done with that scene with him at the ATM, you start bringing it forward to him shooting the cops, blowing up the cars with not even a mag of bullets, and then he goes and kills the front desk man, kills another front desk man, then goes back upstairs, and then he calls his lawyer, and then the next day he talks to the lawyer, and the lawyer's completely happy or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, it's so funny of you," and he's like, "Why is it so funny? I killed a man. That was actually me. I actually killed him." And he's like, I'm going to be honest, the joke was funny. A little criticism, though. Don't pretend to be Patrick Bateman, because he's kind of a wimp. And meanwhile, this is actually Patrick Bateman talking to the guy, and you're thinking, is Patrick Bateman alive?
Right.
Was he one of the people killed?
Right.
So that's what your mind's starting to go through at that point. And then
Is he really Paul Allen?
yeah. So then he's like, I had dinner with Paul Allen in London a week ago, and he was there. And he's like, what? So he's going insane there. And then he goes up to to Paul Allen's apartment to check for the bodies.
Right.
Which one thing that was really funny is when you first see the bodies, you're like, what? So you see all the bodies, and then I was thinking at this point, I'm like, oh, Paul Allen's a killer. And it's just Patrick Bateman living vicariously through it. And then he meets the realtor there, and the realtor is wearing a suit. I don't know if you noticed this.
Right.
Half white, half cheetah pattern.
Didn't see that.
Yin Yang. I noticed that because it's my sixth time watching this movie.
Okay.
It was the Yin Yang style.
Didn't pay attention.
And what she said to Patrick is like, "Sir, I think you should leave." And he's like, "Well, I'm sorry. Did you see anything in the closet?" And he's like, "No, we just freshly repainted everything." "Sir, I think you should leave." And I was discussing, because I watched a movie this time with a bunch of people, and we were talking. We were also thinking that it's potential for Patrick to actually have been the killer,
Okay.
for it actually to have been ignored, and for the real estate agent to be covering him up for him.
That's what I thought it was, and that's why I left mad. I was like, I don't like this man.
the way
He didn't get his just desserts.
the way I perceived it was really either that guy Marvin from the beginning, because it looked very similar.
Okay.
Because you could tell that these stockbrokers are very stuck up because they couldn't remember anyone's
So
names.
what you're saying is all stockbrokers look alike.
No, I'm saying, but
That's
because
racist.
me and Nigel are identical, we both have the beard.
You stockbrokerism.
You know, if we switched chairs, you couldn't tell who's who.
We're both wearing flannels.
Oof, New York style flannels
Yeah.
too. I thought that was one of the other characters who did the killings, and Patrick Bateman was living vicariously through those characters. I think that's what it was. That's a mental escape from his drab life of him sitting at his desk drawing about killing girls.
I thought it was a fever dream. I thought like he was dreaming the whole time, and it was just like once that lawyer spoke to him, he finally realized that he was like it was all a dream. It wasn't really real.
That makes
So-
sense. But one thing to notice too is that because this ties back into my theory, is the secretary. He had the secretary over, and she thought that they were going to have relations.
Right.
And when he was holding a nail gun to the back of her head.
Yeah.
And then when she was like showing how broken she was, which kind of reminds me of Split to an extent.
Okay.
She was saying how broken she was. You see Patrick just like basically thinking she's too innocent for this, and he lets her go. And he's like please, and he's like, you should probably go, because if you say I'm going to do things that I will really regret and I'm going to hurt you real bad. So then she left, and then she goes back. So she at the end of the movie, after everything transpires,
Right.
she goes to his desk, and then she sees all the drawings of dead people and everything.
Yeah.
And you see that Willem Dafoe's character, with the interrogation, when he spoke to Patrick, he's like, yeah, what am I supposed to do? Expect that like one of you just killed one of the other brokers just randomly, no expectation, showing that even the officer is letting them get away with it.
Yeah, that I had an issue with the whole William Dafoe thing because number one, Christian Bale looked guilty.
Yeah.
And every single thing that, like, every interaction that he had with William Dafoe, he seemed guilty. Number two, William Dafoe never came back.
He came back at the end, I believe.
Did he?
It's just for like a brief scene.
I gotta watch this again because
It's a movie you can't watch once. You have to watch it multiple times.
I have to watch it again.
You'll like it more if you watch it a second time, because it's Patrick Bateman's character is really interesting
I
to
just
break down.
hated Christian Bale through the whole thing. Like,
But Patrick Bateman is such an interesting character to break down its layers of.
But
So-
you know what's funny to me? Like in the beginning, where they had these like what I call the anti-Semitic remarks. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I do know Christian Bale was trying to stop them from saying that. Hey, that's far too bad. But he's the murderer.
Yeah, I know. But he was also he was a murderer. But they like that was a lot of it. It was a lot about dialogue too.
Right.
But anyway, one of my all-time favorite movies, in my top 10 definitely. Would definitely recommend watching it twice with friends. What about you?
Yeah.
Also a lot of porn in that movie. Which
There's a
I
lot.
realized, I think that's actually just his own recorded videos.
You think that's him actually having sex?
Because if you saw the first time he had sex in the movie, he had a video camera set up, and it looked like the same angle.
Maybe. You talking about Christian Bale?
Patrick Bateman, yeah.
Bateman. Okay. Yeah, Patrick Bateman likes to make home movies. He's the original R. Kelly.
What was it called? Is it Inside Leanne's Ass? The movie's called something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. But anyway,
There was no Vanessa Del Rio this time.
I recommend it. What about you?
If you're into horror and gore,
It's not really horror.
I'll say
It's
a
campy.
thriller.
It's campy. It's a campy thriller.
Yeah, especially, and we didn't explain the whole running down the hallway with a chainsaw.
That was brilliant.
You know,
I want to let them see it.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I'll give it a stamp of approval because anything that triggers me to get that mad at somebody, I know that it was actually some great acting going on. So I will give it my stamp of approval.
Yeah, I loved it overall. So these were all very fun.
But that's definitely Donald Trump in the '80s, and he definitely got away with all that stuff.
He was a stockbroker, yeah. But anyway, that was a very fun movie. I enjoyed 7 Seconds, though I don't think I'll go back to watch it again.
Okay.
Going back, I really liked True Romance, and Mark reminded us both about True Romance. He told me about True Romance in 7 Seconds, and Future Man I enjoyed.
Future Man, listen, if you like it, go for it. If not, don't watch it.
Go into it blind. Don't go into it without any like expectations of it
Don't
to be good or
listen to
bad.
me. How about that?
Just enjoy it. Anyway,
Just enjoy it.
thanks for watching the Jump Cut. I'm Steve.
I'm Nigel.
And next week, Nigel, any plans, or are we just going to free ball until then?
We're going to free ball until then.
Free ball
I guess
until
we'll
then.
we'll let everybody know what we're watching beforehand.
All right, so you're watching Area 22 Productions. You can give us a super subscription and help fund the station by going to patreon.com/area22. Nigel, where could they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Nigel Fullerton _.
And you can find me on Instagram at Mr. Malum, MR_MALUM, or on Spotify or any other streaming service at Drakentoss. Thank you for tuning in. I am Steve. This is Nigel. We're cutting out.